My name is Mike, I'm from Toledo, Ohio, and I am gay. I usually hate to preface an introduction with I'm gay. I prefer people to get to know me as a person first and as a gay person second. But this video is an endorsement from a gay American to Dr. Ron Paul for President. It's also a response to Sheldon W. in his video, Ron Paul, A Wolf in Sheep's Clothing. I wanted to tell Sheldon and everyone in the gay community why I support Dr. Paul and why I think you should reconsider your views on his viability as a presidential candidate. Even though Sheldon is somewhat correct about the issues he brought up, Dr. Paul is still the best choice of president for gay Americans. That's right, Sheldon. I think you were mostly correct in your interpretation of Dr. Paul's personal ideology. But it is basically inconsequential because Dr. Paul's personal opinion means absolutely nothing, and his voting record supports this notion 100%. It is only his verifiable public record on what the role of the president and the federal government in general, his lifelong record of honesty, integrity, keeping his campaign promises, and what those promises are, that really matters. What are those promises? The ones that matter the most to me are, just come home. It was a bad war, started on false pretenses, and we should stand up as adults and admit we were wrong. How many American lives are we willing to give for this unjust war? My cousin Lisa was a nurse for the Air Force stationed in Iraq. My cousin Matthew, a private in the Army, was stationed in Iraq. How many lives? Sound money. How low does our dollar have to go? How much of our country are we willing to let China buy because we can't pay back our loans before we stop borrowing billions a day from them? How expensive does Prada have to get before we say, enough is enough? Let's go back to the principle of sound money. Just like the Founding Fathers said in the Constitution, and just like Dr. Paul has been saying since the 1970s, consistently, I would rather our money be backed by gold than the promises of a bunch of politicians that every single American knows is a bald-faced liar, no matter which party they are in. Except for Dr. Paul, astonishingly enough. The more I see him talk and examine his political record, the more and more honest he appears to be. That is so refreshing and surprising. I didn't expect it when I first started investigating him, but it was a very, very welcome bonus and made me really stop and think. Isn't the fact that he actually tells the truth worth something anymore? Or are we all so conditioned to the lies? How many more years will W say mission accomplished before the mission is actually accomplished? At least with Dr. Paul, if he tells us he's going to do something, he actually does it. It's amazing. I've never seen or heard of any other politician who actually does what they say they will do after they get elected. But Dr. Paul does. Check for yourself. Civil liberties and the rule of law. Don't you remember, give me liberty or give me death? Well, guess what? We are once again at that turning point in our history where we have to decide liberty or death. Death of privacy, death of habeas corpus, death of the dollar, death of our soldiers, death of the right not to be tasered, shot, and killed by our own police officers. And worse than all that, death of the American spirit. I choose liberty, wholeheartedly and with firm conviction. Would rather live in a flawed society, free to discuss and fix those flaws, than in a society that makes it illegal to even talk about the flaws in the first place. Gay rights, or as Dr. Paul calls it, individuals, not people groups. As a strict constitutionalist, Dr. Paul would remand all the powers not specifically granted by the people via the Constitution back to the states. This includes gay rights. If you look at gay rights issues on a state-by-state basis, you will find that a majority of them had already enacted gay equality laws before Lawrence versus Texas, in spite of the efforts of the religious right. Exactly as it happened with interracial marriage, until the Fed stepped in with Loving versus Virginia and forced the last remaining states to succumb to the will of the Congress, not to the will of the people of Virginia. As we all know, this added to the animosity between the North and the South that is unabated to this day. From Dr. Paul's point of view, and from the point of view of the Founding Fathers, remanding those rights to the states, or to the people if the states pass no law, is exactly as it should be, that the people decide on a state-by-state basis. Up until the U.S. Supreme Court invalidated the sodomy laws in the Texas case, the states were doing a pretty good job of making us equal without any help at all from the feds, and it is my firm belief that all the states would have enacted gay equality laws on their own in good time. We only need to look at the example set by the people of Massachusetts to see the path to true equality. Yes, the invalidation by the U.S. Supreme Court in Lawrence v. Texas was a very welcome shortcut, but it was still just that, a shortcut. In the long term, we still would have arrived at the same place. The difference being that the people of Texas would have made us equal because they truly believed we were equal, not because a bunch of old people in Washington forced them to treat us equally. Now, I don't know about you, but I would rather ensure my rights and the respect of my neighbor based on my merits as an individual, not as a member of a people group enforced from on high. Ron Paul's platform is very clear on this issue. We are not gay Americans. We are Americans, period. We the people? Dr. Paul understands that we, gay Americans, are just as much we the people as he is, or my black neighbor, or the Jewish family that lives down the street, or the Buddhist on the next block over, or my niece who's half Mexican, or my sister's black boyfriend, and on and on and on. And it is Dr. Paul's mission to ensure that the Fed will treat us all exactly the same. His personal beliefs are irrelevant to the gay equality issue because the Constitution says nothing about people's sex lives. If nothing else, consider this. He is the only candidate, Republican or Democrat, who is advocating an immediate pullout from Iraq. As I said, I have 2 cousins in Iraq, and trust me, they want to come home now. Not in 2013, now. I'm going to leave you with the immortal words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The hope of a secure and livable world lies with disciplined nonconformists who are dedicated to justice, peace, and brotherhood. If that doesn't describe Ron Paul, I don't know what does. I'm a gay American, and I support Ron Paul for president in 2008. Thank you.